This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, and it is 5:02 p.m. And we'll begin with a call to order by roll call. Linda Escobedo.
Present.
Mike Lawson.
Present.
Rich Feely. I think he's still trying to log on. Carrie LaFleur.
Present.
Present, and Keith Bergman present. So, and we are joined by many of our regulars here. Welcome back to many of you, and glad everyone can be here today. Our next item of business is approval of minutes, and I did send out a set from our January 9th, 2024 meeting, and have attached all of the attachments that would go with that. And I wonder if there's a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Motion by Linda, second by Mike. Is there discussion? All right, then we will on the motion to approve the minutes. We'll take a roll call vote. Linda.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Rich. Not getting a signal. Harry.
Aye.
I'm going to put you down as an abstention.
That's
Okay. And Keith, aye. So that passes by 3 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. So thanks very much. Next is I wonder if someone could try to email or text Rich Feely just to see if we can get him a message that we're not seeing him on the call while we're here. Next item is
I'll do.
Thanks very much. Next item is a debrief on the January 18th legislative hearing on the Governor's Affordable Homes Act, House 4138, and I do hope to be able to call on Rich for this, because Rich went to the State House and sat in Gardner Auditorium for practically the whole day. I won't say the whole day and night, because it did go until the hearing began at 11 a.m. and it ended at 10 p.m. And my daughter Mary on Nantucket was the final person to testify a few minutes before 4:10. So both dad and daughter got to testify in favor of the bill. From our group, also Stephen Bader from the Housing Authority testified virtually in favor, and that's great. As we're aware, the housing bond bill includes a proposal for local option real estate transfer fee to fund affordable housing trusts. It's very similar to the home rule petition that Concord has been filing since 2019. And this housing bond bill is the first time that a governor has expressed support for real estate transfer fee. So we're excited about that. It was great that there were at least 5 letters coming from Concord into the record. The Select Board, the Housing Authority, the CHDC, Housing Foundation, and the Trust all submitted letters to the Joint Committee on Housing in support of the bill. The committee's chaired by, and I should also give a plug to Rich, who looks like he's logging on now. That Rich helped draft. There he is.
Yeah, sorry, new computer. It's being weird.
Oh, very good. Well, welcome.
I apologize.
No problem. Rich Feely joined the meeting at 5:07, and thank you. Thanks so much. I was just starting to debrief on the January 18th legislative hearing, and I'd gladly turn it over to you, Rich. except I think I saw that screen go
I think you disappeared again.
malfunction.
I disappeared, but can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
yes, we can.
Well, you don't need to see me anyhow. Yeah, it went on for 11 hours. Keith and his daughter were near the end. I would characterize it as almost universally favorable to the governor's bill and favorable to the transfer fee, except for the real estate industry. And I guess it was one of the big industrial groups who said, oh, it's another tax, et cetera, et cetera. I thought the good news was that both Senator Edwards and Senator Sear and Rep. Connolly were quite aggressive in questioning those opposing the transfer fee and asked them for evidence. They said, oh, there's this study from Toronto. We found the study, and you'll appreciate this. It was done the post implementation period for they compared the city of Toronto to the suburbs. Toronto imposed a transfer fee effective February of 2008. Anybody remember what happened to the real estate market in 2008? And it was top to bottom. It was not a high-end tax. It was progressive. The rate went up, but all properties were taxed. And finally, they assumed that the timing of sales was unaffected by the imposition of the tax, which I thought, you know, having once worked in a real estate law firm where nobody got any vacation at Christmas time, I thought they were really hitting themselves. So, you know, the bottom line is a lot of support across the board from the usual suspects, but including unions, Mass General, and the usual opposition. And I guess the next step is to see what happens when they start fiddling with the whole bill. Keith, you know, you actually got to testify, so I don't know whether you want to say anything else.
Yeah, I thought it was, well, first, Rich, thank you so much for being there on our on the scene eyes and ears for that day. I know it was a long day, and I'm glad that you were able to be there. And thanks also, Rich. I know you had a hand in drafting the op-ed that has been submitted from Concord, Nantucket, and Somerville in support of the real estate transfer fee provision in the Affordable Homes Act. And I know I saw an email from the Aloha Coalition today that it had been submitted to the Boston Globe. They're following up to have it perhaps pitch it to Commonwealth Magazine. But thanks, Rich, for the work that you did, and thank you to Henry Dane for signing on to the letter on behalf of Concord, along with the mayor of Somerville and the chair of the Nantucket Select Board. That's great. That's really great to have Concord out there in that group. We don't know yet when there will be a vote by the committee. I just wanted to put in a plug. Now, the co-chairs are Rep. Jim Arcero, who represents Westford and Littleton, Chelmsford. I got to work with him for the nearly dozen years I was in Littleton. And Senator Lydia Edwards is the Senate chair. I know she had gone on a tour of Cape and Islands communities prior to the hearing, and there was a suggestion made by it might have been Rich or other Aloha folks, that maybe we would want to invite the chairs to Concord. In fact, there may be some very interesting things happening in Concord that they might want to come here.
Yeah, I have suggested that because I think what we haven't played up enough is the flexibility of the transfer fee versus the, other major housing subsidy programs, which, require very complex financial engineering. And the fact that it can move quickly and, as we well know, save a property or two at a time. And we have plenty of sort of visuals for that. So I am pitching that. I think we'll go to the, hopefully LOHA will go to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities and ask if they'd like to do one out here. I'm assuming the select board would cooperate, and I'm assuming Reps Gentile and Cataldo and hopefully Senator Barrett. So yeah, that's on the agenda to see if we can use Concord as an example of what flexible local funding can do.
Right. And thanks again, Rich, for your efforts. Other feedback or anything else that folks want to say on this topic before we move on? Again, thanks again. I do hope we'll get a favorable vote from the Joint Committee on Housing. As it happens, I'm going to get to see the House Chair, Rep. Arcero. He's the keynoter on February 13th at a kickoff housing summit called At Home in Greater Lowell that the Northern Middlesex Council of Government is doing, and I've been invited to be a panelist on that event. So hope to.
Keith, this is Linda. May I make just a couple comments?
Sure can, Linda. Thank you.
Just a couple suggestions. One is that I think it's helpful when the Trust Committee as a whole sees the letters that have been submitted for testimony. I think that would be helpful if you could get those out to all of us on the committee. The other thing I would say is that I appreciated that at least several of these letters, including the select board letter and the trust letter, listed all of the committee members who were signing on to that letter. And I think particularly for the purpose of the testimony, that's important. So thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I think I have 4 of the 5 letters that went in, and I'll make copies, or I'll email out those that I have to you all. So that's great. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the status of MCI Concord closing and potential reuse of the property. And this was not on our agenda when it was originally posted, but once the news hit last week, I added this item to our agenda. I'd be glad to get some initial words on this from our town manager, Kerry LaFleur. I heard that the Lieutenant Governor called you and told you, which is what was happening or was about to happen. And I'm glad to give you the floor to just share with us what the town knows and how we can help.
Sure. Thanks, Keith. That story's a little better than what actually happened. I actually received a call on Tuesday evening last week, maybe 7:30, from a staffer at the Executive Office of Public Safety, letting me know that in the governor's budget, there would be an announcement on the closure of MCI Concord. And I wish I could say the lieutenant governor called me. I pinged her and asked to talk to her, and she was kind enough to respond. So
Very good.
I know people think that the town must have known something more sooner, but we did not. And I can tell you, we have been meeting with facilities people at the Department of Corrections off and on for quite some time, because we have a specific interest in the wastewater treatment plant that's over there. And earlier today, Alan Cathcart was able to make a connection again with the facilities director at Department of Corrections, the gentleman who we've been meeting with. And it was news to them as well. So it was it was a well-kept secret that this would be included in the budget. So what we do know is that there are about 300 inmates at MCI Concord, and it costs the state $16 million to run that facility. So as the single oldest facility in their in that system, they are going to close MCI Concord. There is no word that the Northeast Correctional Facility, the farm, is going to close. There was some confusion early on that perhaps that was part of what was being contemplated, but that does not appear to be the case. And we're hearing that we may even see an increased population over there as they're moving different customers in the DOC system around to different locations. So we do know that the intent is to close that facility as of June 30, 2024. That there is a process built into that legislation that would allow either the state to dispose of the property or in conjunction with the town come up with a reuse plan, which may include turning that property over to the town for $1 for reuse. We do know that the state has an interest in affordable housing, but according to the lieutenant governor, they understand that that can't feasibly turn into 50 acres of housing in Concord, that there should be some, they understand there should and needs to be some commercial component. We expect that the state will have a lot more to say about the redevelopment or the reuse of that property because it really is key to the region. It's well cited for a regional amenity, so we don't yet know what the process will be. We do want to actively participate, and we think the best way to retain our seat at the table is for the town to speak with one voice and not to have lots of different groups reaching out to different players and attempting to speak on behalf of the town or individual interests. So we're going to try to corral all of that energy, excitement, enthusiasm into one strong voice that keeps us at the table. One thing that I will say that we have a particular concern with is we know the Northeast Regional Correctional Facility is connected to that wastewater treatment plant. And we know the state's intention is to vacate MCI Concord on June 30. So we're trying to understand how that is going to happen, how that treatment plant is going to operate with an even reduced flow with the vacation of that property. So we're trying to figure that out. I'm happy to try to field questions. Not sure what I left out. We did give an update to the select board last night, and I'm happy to share that with this group, just 5 or 6 slides, so you can see what was presented.
Thanks so much, Carrie. And I know we've got folks here from many of our housing groups, including the Concord Housing Development Corporation. And I think I'll let Lee go with the first questions because they did meet this morning. Of course, they're the neighbor. As far as I could see, part of the confusion over how many acres MCI Concord is because if you looked at old references, it might say 64 acres or 62 or 64 acres, which you can only reach if you add the 51 acres of what we see as MCI Concord to the nearly 13 acres that are, in fact, the Junction Village property. And one of the issues we raised, that was raised this morning among many, and I'll let Lee get into it, is there's a emergency easement across the MCI property from Junction Village out to Route 2. And if that emergency easement were to be more general use easement, it could, make Junction Village eminently more developable there. So let me call on Lee, and it looks like Gary stepped away, but I'm confident is nearby. And here we go. So I'll call on Lee to have the floor for questions of Carrie.
Thanks, Keith. So Carrie, if you haven't heard already, CHDC met this morning and voted unanimously to pause the RFP for Junction Village until September 30th to enable us to learn as much as we can about the future of that site and how it may impact the development of the CHDC property. Going off of what Keith said about the Elm Street, whatever it is, present emergency access easement, that would be helpful. My personal opinion is that that site is best accessed off Commonwealth Avenue, perhaps in the area before it intersects with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, more or less across the street from the current parking lot. But I can appreciate that that's all well down the road. But just so you know, CHDC would love to have its development in whatever form it ultimately takes be accessed off of Commonwealth, so it's not crossing Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and also not negatively impacting Winthrop Street. Other than that, I think CHDC board members are unanimous in wanting to have a seat at the table, similar to what you were saying in terms of one voice, which I can appreciate and agree with. Just hopefully CHDC or the affordable housing groups in general are whispering in the ear of that voice. Other than that, I'll take it that you've shared as much as you have or are able to as of today.
Thanks, Lee. Carrie, any response?
I will just reiterate, I am sharing everything I know. I wish I could say I knew more, but we don't know anything more yet. We do have some outreach to MAPC, to Mass Development, and we are hoping that we will identify elements of a process to be able to present to the Lieutenant Governor for what we think a good process would be. And we don't have any reason to believe that the state won't be good partners here. And it doesn't seem that they have a strong interest in anything other than a partnership with the town as long as the development includes some element of housing, which of course we want as well. It's a very valuable piece of property. I can tell you the town has it assessed for north of $45 million. So it is interesting that I'm not sure that the governor's office is really aware of that, because, it says in the legislation that they will turn it over to us for $1.
Oh. Sure.
Yeah, Mike, and then Rich.
Carrie, what about demolition costs?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We're already hearing from members of the community who are very much in support of historical preservation, that there's an interest in preserving some of the structures there. We haven't done anything any site development work. We literally just heard about this last week, and even though we know that the population at the prison has been declining, we never in our wildest dreams thought that they would be looking to close that facility.
My question was more around who will bear the cost as opposed to what will not be taken down.
I would assume that if we're looking at redevelopment that has a strong regional benefit, there would be significant state funding through grants for a lot of them.
And regional would be commercial development?
Yeah, I mean, some element of commercial.
Mhm. Mhm. And is the word quite definitive that the correctional facility adjacent is not part of this?
We don't believe it to be part of this closure. I wouldn't say it's definitive because I've asked two different state agencies, does it include the farm? And they say yes, but I think they don't know what that means when they're saying yes.
Yeah, years ago, we had approached the state about that facility because they had changed its use from a juvenile facility to essentially a pre-release facility, and then, you know, rented out the land to transient cattle coming through. But we're rebuffed by the state for that effort.
Yeah, if I could, you know, so the farm really is NECC, and when you look at the information, it's not part of MCI Concord. And the you know, the materials really say very specifically that this is MCI Concord property. I mean, it would be interesting to see, you know, they talk about a survey of what property is really included. There's a lot of like little bits and pieces around, aside from the big chunk there. You know, there's some you know, so I don't know, you know, there's that White House across the street, that, you know, that old where the COs used to live. I don't know who actually owns that now. I don't know, whatever, but I don't think that the NECC is really owned by MCI Concord. And when you look on the DOC website, it doesn't say MCI Concord anywhere on there. So for whatever that's worth, right? So.
No.
Thanks, Liz. Rich Feeling.
Yeah, obviously Carrie doesn't know the answer to this, but I'm hoping we will find out if they are planning to use some of that land to do something about the traffic circle. I mean, I've seen that referred to in a couple of places. So I'm hoping maybe as the town gets more of a briefing, we can learn something. The other thing is, maybe this is just my Irish sense of impending doom, and I don't know whether Linda would share this, but I could see going to town meeting with MBTA zoning and having people stand up and say, why do we need to do this? We're going to get 60 acres for housing from the state. So I just think we sort of need to, not tonight, but at some point, have an answer for that argument. Or maybe I'm, as I say, just fretting when I don't need to.
Rich, I have the quick answer to that argument, and that we will be if we don't pass MBTA community zoning, and it's a very modest, reasonable proposal that's being put forward, we can forget about getting money from the state. And we very much are going to need money and assistance from the state and everything we're trying to do here. And in fact, you know, there was a question that I think came up this morning was, or maybe I was reading into the question, but no, it was a question from the select board last night of that part of the of the MCI Concord property is within half a mile of West Concord Station. So, you know, so what do we do about that? And the answer correctly given was it cannot be included now because it's state owned. And so I hope we'll get past that. But thanks for raising that. Other questions, Lee?
Is there any, I understand what you're saying about the state-owned piece. Is there any value in maybe showing it to those who at the state level will be reviewing the MBTA community's information, showing it as proposed or future or something, just to, you know, if they're aware that it's pending in relatively short order. Well, I'll ask it another way. Can we add it after the conveyance, after it's no longer state property?
I'm going to ask Wendell Miller, our planning board chair, to comment on that, but and I think I know the answer, but yeah.
Well, good, because if you know the answer, then please go ahead. But at this point, my understanding is that is a single lot at this point. So it seems to me that to include that in the MBTA zoning, we would have to zone that entire property. And that may not be what the town chooses to do. So I think that it would be not appropriate for the planning board to make a judgment of the use of the land before the town has much more information and has had the ability to have much more deliberation and thoughtfulness about how it would use all or portions of the property. I'm confident that we have a reasonable approach to satisfy the current requirements for the MBTA community's housing requirements. So it would seem to me not prudent to try to include or obfuscate the current path that we're on. But again, the planning board is happy to respond to any thoughts about what we can do. And certainly post this town meeting, zoning is a live process. So you can always zone and rezone land to find its best use and value.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. And yes, I would think that certainly there's nothing that could happen or should happen at this town meeting. The property is ineligible currently, and so long as it remains state-owned property, it's ineligible for inclusion in whole or in part in an MBTA community zone. Perhaps the issue that could help inform whatever master planning process that goes forward for the property is to ask, is there part of that property that might be appropriate to include in MBTA communities after the questions have been asked of, well, what are the uses in general that would be used there? If housing is going to be one, good to know. If there are commercial uses, that's fine, and maybe it would be to the town's benefit to subdivide the property or to have it subdivided into separate lots so that the housing ones could be zoned differently than the commercial ones. So lots of opportunities, I think. And none of those things will be coming up at this town meeting this year.
Once that property is conveyed to the town, then that'll simply be the decisions we'll have to make, how the property will be zoned for whatever uses are appropriate given our relationship with the state.
Yeah, my guess is that, that in order, I'm just saying, in order for the property to be transferred to the town, I think the town's gonna have to all know by then, before that happens, what the intended uses are going to be and how the town intends to develop it in order to gain the trust and confidence of the Commonwealth to be able to carry out that vision. So, so for me, it's all that more important to know how we can all contribute to this, this process that the town will be working on. It'll presumably be a community-wide engagement process about the future of that property. If there can be representatives from all of the affected groups, including housing, I think that would be one way for us to know that we're at the table. And if that could be worked out, and there's some very talented folks that we've got here among our committee ranks. As I was saying earlier, that at CHDC, both Lee Smith and Peter Lowett have had a lot of experience working with mass development, who may be a major player here in this. Liz Rust?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at these slides. Thank you, Carrie. So I think it's really just what I'm seeing here, right, is I would assume that the town would embark on some kind of master plan process with the appropriate people to provide input and community feedback led by some kind of, professionals to get that information in a one voice kind of plan and materials that can kind of come together. And that's what you're talking about in terms of getting mass development or MAPC or whoever to kind of help pull the town together to organize those thoughts, I would assume. I don't know. But,
Where are those slides?
Carrie just sent it,
Were those just emailed?
yes.
yeah, and
Okay,
it
great, yeah.
just has a thing like a master planning, just says
just
the
got it.
words master planning. But I would
Right.
assume that that's what, I mean, I think that's what everyone's talking about, like all the things that people are looking for in the property. And I think that that's what most or other, there's many examples of other communities and municipalities who have had large pieces of land that want all different kinds of, before getting into zoning, what are the uses, and then the zoning to support the uses. With so much housing that you envision, you'd have to have some commercial, right? Like, like people need to buy stuff, right? So, you can't just like have all that housing and then there's no food, there's no nothing, right? Like there's not enough places to buy food, supermarkets or shops or whatever have you, to support the kinds of units that we're talking about here. So, yeah.
Thanks,
Many
Carrie,
people, I'm sure there are many people who'd be delighted to come and lead such an effort in Concord to do that master planning. I'm sure there's no shortage of people who are ready to jump on board to that invitation, that RFP invitation, whenever that's available.
right. So I did have a chance to, I was on a FaceTime call with my grandson at between 6 and 6:30 last night. So I didn't see this presentation during the meeting, but I saw the video posted earlier today and had a chance to see it. That I think it would be helpful for folks here to look at the, not only look at the slides, but there was a very helpful discussion that took place at the select board meeting about 18 minutes into the meeting last night. And it appears that the process is well in hand, and that we're going to be well served by the people that are leading it. So thank the town for that, and just put in a I wonder if we might want to take if the
Can I just
trust
ask
might
one other
want.
question? Sorry. Do you think that this
Sure.
changes any efforts to proceed with that 91B property on Route 2? Do you think that this will be back burner, that would be back burner because of this?
Are you asking me, Liz, or?
Well, I
or
think
the-
the town was kind of pursuing that, taking the lead on that.
No, I don't see that we would put that back burner. We're not making great progress with anybody at the state. But I would assume that if we could get access to that property, we could have that up and developed long before anything happens at MCI Concord redevelopment.
Probably so, probably so. And it's such a different scale too,
No kidding.
thank you.
Very good. And so I'm trying to think of if there might be some helpful vote that the trust could take as a result of our discussion, and so that we're on record as supporting this, sort of a comprehensive process, and putting in a plug for affordable housing being considered as one of the potential reuses. I have a, does that sound like it would be of interest to do tonight? I had
Might be just a little early to be,
yeah,
I'd like to
is
leave
there
them
a point?
as much running room as they can as they try to get all this stuff figured out. And
Yeah, is there a point, Carrie, at which you would think it would be appropriate for us to weigh in to support whatever comprehensive planning efforts the town is going to pursue? Perhaps once we see what that is, then we'll support it and ask to be a part of it.
Sure, absolutely, that there would be a point in time which that would be very helpful. I would agree with Mike. It's a little early. We might even have a substantive update the next time this group meets, because we are hoping to outline what we think an appropriate process would be to present that to the Lieutenant Governor, sometime even in the month of February. So she is looking for feedback from us. And I think it's helpful for the trust and everybody else who has an interest in the property to be on record at some point, just as you said, Keith, as one of the uses, not the only use, because we are all going to have to come together to make this happen. It can't be all housing. It can't be all historical preservation. It can't be all commercial. We all have to come together and support each other's needs and interests to get something good done at this site.
oh,
Absolutely. So we'll how about if we'll wait to hear back from you, Carrie, or Megan, on what a next step is, and we'll be delighted to be involved in whatever discussions are taking place as you put together what the plan might be, and at an appropriate time we'll certainly be there as an active and helpful cooperative participant.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And welcome, Rich. You've got your video going, so that's great.
Figured out I had to take the tape off it.
Oh, very good. That too. Yeah, when I got a new computer, I had to figure out how to open the camera manually. So any further discussion on this topic tonight? It's been very helpful, Carrie, to give us this update and feel really well briefed. So thank you.
Very much.
Uh, Next is prepare the next agenda item. Excuse me. I had surgery last week and I was intubated for part of it, and I'm still having trouble talking, but I'm fine. It's just that it's the talking I can't do as much of, which is not a disappointment, I'm sure. We had voted at our last meeting to support four town meeting articles as we approach the upcoming public hearings prior to town meeting. And I wanted to just mention that we're working on a proposed joint letter to the editor that would come from the chairs of the four housing groups. I know the Housing Authority is going to have this on their agenda on Thursday. But I wanted to just, and just as a reminder, those four articles are the fossil fuel free bylaw, which as far as I can tell is Article 32. I do, oh, Carrie, do you know when the warrant would be available to know which articles or which number?
You know what, I'm gonna check online. It just went to the printer today, so
Okay,
if it's not online now, I would assume by the end of the week it'll be available.
okay, very good, thanks. Article 32, fossil fuel free bylaw was one. Two zoning articles, Article 34 and 35, I believe the MBTA communities and the two-family dwelling unit in Residence B. And the last one was the Article 40, the community preservation funding for fiscal 2025. And I wanted to just raise a couple of things about some of those articles. First, on the fossil fuel free, I think it would be a good idea if the trust took a vote, send a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals urging that the comprehensive permit applications for both of the 40Bs, Novo and Thorough, be required to be fossil fuel free, consistent with the town's participation in the pilot program. Certainly, by the time either of those are getting a building permit, that's going to be the law. There's a bylaw that I believe the bylaw as it was originally passed takes effect in March, I believe. The amendments that are proposed for town meeting, which would remove the exemption for affordable housing, will take effect presumably by the end of the summer. But I'm just suggesting it might be a good idea to put on record with the ZBA that we'd like to have both of those 40Bs be fossil fuel free. As far as I can tell, Novo is already lining up to do just that. But I thought that might be something we might want to take as a follow-up action. Any thoughts on that?
Strongly support that idea, Keith. Novo is committed, as far as I can see, to a ground source system and fossil fuel free. And they seem to know how to do it, which is encouraging as well. And I would hate, to give somebody the competitive advantage of if they actually get a permit of being able to build, now at lower capital cost, when Novo's putting the capital in so that it won't have to be fossil fuel based. So I'd support a simple, essentially what you said, that the trust urges the ZBA to, in view of Article X to require that any permit issued to a 40B applicant be explicitly for fossil fuel free construction.
Thanks, Rich. Mike?
I support the idea, as does Rich, but I would wonder on what authority the ZBA would be able to make that a requirement, since the current law exempts affordable housing from that provision.
I think we're, you know,
Yeah, 75% of both of those developments will not be affordable.
And is that enough to?
Well, I guess you can see how the ZBA feels about it, but one thought is if Concord, if from now on Concord is going to be fossil fuel free for it shouldn't be an easy lift to get a waiver from that, and a waiver.
So this is Linda. Can you hear me?
Yes, Linda. Yes.
Yeah, Linda Escobedo. Aren't we assuming that in terms of the timing here, that we will have had town meeting and hopefully adopted that language that would require fossil-free construction and major renovation?
Well, I think in the case of Novo, their decision will be issued by the ZBA prior to town meeting.
Oh.
So, it may not be as much of an, I think from Novo's standpoint,
Well, they're
already on record as being in support of. I guess I'm suggesting that I would hate to pick on one 40B developer and not all 40B developers to say, we want. I'm guessing if Novo, if the suggestion was made to ZBA that both Novo and Thorough comply with fossil fuel free, Novo would probably agree to that, since they've already submitted a proposal which is in compliance. Then the question comes of what happens after town meeting, and I think it's harder to. I haven't seen a schedule of when the ZBA decision is going to be due from Thorough, but it will be the due date will be sometime after town meeting, probably after town meeting, but prior to the Attorney General's approval of the bylaw.
Exactly. Well, I don't think it hurts we can certainly be on record as supporting this and leave it to the ZBA to determine whether or not they can in fact do it.
Right. And yeah, it just seemed to me that it would be consistent, at least with our support of the article, that we would weighing in with comments on the 240B.
Do you have language of a motion to propose?
Let's see. That the trust send a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals urging that the comprehensive permit applications of both Novo Riverside Commons and Thorough Residences be required to be fossil fuel free, consistent with the Mass Department of Energy Resources approval of the town of Concord's participation in the fossil fuel free demonstration project.
And
moved.
Add to that, and we authorize the chair to develop that letter.
And authorize the chair to send a letter accordingly. Right. Heard a motion by Rich. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mike. Is there discussion? All right, let's take a roll call vote on that motion. Linda,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So that's 5-0. Thank you. The second point that I wanted to raise, and it has to do with the community preservation article that we had identified 2 projects that are related to housing that we wanted to support in our and that we're looking to support in the letter to the editor. One is, of course, the $500,000 that's going to the trust, and also the $33,500 that's going to the Regional Housing Services Office. And I wanted to suggest a third one, which I think is important for one of I'll just say what it is. It's supporting the $200,000 for design of the Assabet River Bridge extension of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And this is the final monies that are being sought from town meeting to leverage $8 million in Boston MPO TIP funds to build that bridge, which, as we talked about before, is a vital link for to the Novo Riverside Commons 40B as well, to include them to connect them, better connect them with West Concord. So I didn't know if, I don't think we need a vote on this, but I'm just asking for a sense of whether it would be all right to refer also to that project as one of the things that one of the reasons why we're supporting the community preservation recommendations this year.
I strongly agree, Keith. I mean, anything we can do to accelerate the building of that bridge, because it's not just Novo, it's the potential for people to commute by train and walk to the office park.
I agree.
Great. Carrie, do you happen to know, or could we find out what the status of the design of the 25% design plans are for the that Assabet River Bridge project? I'm sure it'll come up at the hearing. I imagine that, you know, Elizabeth Hughes will have the answers ready, but there's a lot of, but it's the completion of those design plans, and we were told it was going to be by April, is the point at which the project, the $8 million project, can get listed on the Boston MPO Transportation Improvement Plan. So I think that the sooner those design plans are complete, the sooner it can get lifted on the tip, and the sooner we can start advocating for that $8 million to be moved into place.
So, you know, I don't know for sure the status of the design plans, but I just earlier today signed off on a Mass Trails grant for application for the 75% funding for 75% design. And I did see a tip number referenced, and I thought I saw a reference that it was funded in the tip, which I was actually made a note to follow up on tomorrow, because I wasn't aware that it was in a funding year, so perhaps I misread.
Yeah, well, that would be welcome news, but whatever the status is, that would be great to know, and we'll be happy to help, you know, advocate for that. It's a great project. All right, so thank you. Any other comments on that before we move along? All right, next question. It has to be another question for Carrie. It's town ARPA funds, and just our usual check-in on whether the timetable has been set yet for the ability to apply for loans.
It has not been set. We did just a couple of days ago, finally close out our fiscal 25 budget. Proposed-
Congratulations.
That was, yeah, so that's what's been holding us back from moving to the next bit of work, so hopefully soon.
All right, so we'll stay tuned and thank you. Next is it's just an update on the housing production plan priority projects. We've got folks from the Housing Authority on, and I believe is there a closing schedule for tomorrow for the acquisition of the unit that with the $400,000 of trust funds. There's Rick Eichler. Hello.
Hi, Keith. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we had a final walkthrough today on our unit number 204 at Forest Ridge, Riverbend condominiums. And the money's in place. We got your money and we're going to push it out almost as soon as we got it. Should all happen tomorrow if we're lucky. And that will then be our unit. There will be quite a few administrative steps after that to get it occupied, and a little bit of a bathroom job. But if everything fell into place, it's certainly possible that we would have a tenant selected in the month of February. We might have our project-based voucher approved in the month of February, which is an important step in making it an affordable unit that's on the SHI. Theoretically possible maybe to get someone in there March 1st. I don't know, that seems maybe too aggressive, but things will happen all sort of simultaneously, and when they're all done, we'll have a tenant. So that money's going out the door. You might also be interested in knowing that the Habitat house is now owned by the owner. And she will be moving in, I assume, in a matter of weeks. I don't know. There probably will be a ceremony at that house at some point scheduled in the cold weather. Hopefully there'll be weather permitting kind of event there. So keep your eye open for that. But yeah, so good news on both of those projects actually coming pretty much to fruition.
And Rick, this is
That's,
Linda Escobedo. Rick, the implications of that are good for our SHI, correct?
So the Riverbend unit will be SHI. The Habitat unit, now that it's owned by the owner, it should be on the SHI, I would think.
I was going to add it tomorrow or
okay.
request it. It takes a little process to add it, but it's
So it'll go
essentially
right on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we should work on the restriction, Rick, for the Forest Ridge.
Oh, okay. I think it probably maybe even exists somewhere. And
It has to get approved by the state. While it's still in draft.
Okay. So that's one of the administrative things.
Yeah, exactly. Just,
yeah.
We don't want to get hung up there, right?
Yeah, we started some of that when we tried to get our other Forest Ridge Riverbend unit through until that one stalled. So some of that, I guess what I'm saying is some of that pre-work is done and may not be far from being able to.
Yeah, great.
Go. Yeah.
That's great. Well, congratulations to Housing Authority and CHA Local Properties LLC. So great idea. Thank you. Let's see, from the CHDC, we heard the update on Junction Village, and I know things are continuing to move ahead with an RFP for Assabet River Bluff, and and the planned residential development, that is coming back to, the planning board and the ZBA in the near future, so. Any other updates on, from CHDC, Liz, that you might have for us?
Still waiting for those checks.
I know, well, yeah, I saw that. I got an update today of disbursements, and the CHA's money has been dispersed and the other two have not, the CHDC, so.
3 checks
inquired
for the CHDC, one from
Yeah.
October, right?
Yeah, they indicated to me that the smallest check was issued. And that
I don't know where.
the larger ones aren't, so I'm. But I know that you're owed the funds, and I'm trying very hard to get those paid.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
They have no
And-
money, so they're holding invoices. They can't pay
Yeah.
them till they get the money.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
really, it's,
so
you know,
so
it's really,
Gary,
it's
so
low
Gary-
finances. It's not big, high
Yeah.
finances here. It's very low
yeah, if
finance.
you could look into this, that there are 3 checks that have been, we approved over 30 days ago, probably closer to 60 days now, and that CHDC is due those funds.
Thank you.
So thank you. All right. And we're continuing to, I know the town, as Gary said, is going to continue to work on the 91B Main Street surplus property. And that we've had, as we discussed last time, that that the funding for the Novo 40B to my understanding, it's under discussion between the developer's attorney and town council right now. So we'll see how that goes. There was a breakdown in the the technical aspect of the ZBA's last meeting. It was hybrid. We couldn't hear anything, and so nothing happened at the January ZBA meeting, which was to focus on transportation and traffic. And so now those things are going to be on the meeting that occurs on, this is for the residences that, I'm sorry, this is for Novo. That's going to be on Thursday, February 14th. And then the next ZBA hearing continuation for Thorough is February 25th. So we'll all be watching those as they proceed. Any comments on the 40Bs? All right, we're at public comment. Is there public comment that we have tonight? Thank you all for being with us.
Keith,
yeah.
before,
Yes.
if I could just add another comment, this is Linda.
Sure. Yes, Linda.
This is just an alert to everyone. The historic preservation plan was introduced to the Historical Commission on Friday, and just so everyone knows, they're referring to it as their HPP when they do shorthand.
I saw that, and I was already confused. Yeah.
And so we just need to, I noticed on this agenda you spelled out the housing production plan with full nomenclature, and I just want us to be aware of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe one of us we could call ours the HOPP, and they could call theirs the HIPP. So for housing and historic. So thank you.
HP squared.
Yes. We'll think of the way to do it. And speaking of historic preservation, let's put in a plug. There's an article that was just posted in the New York Times talking about historic preservation on Nantucket, and it's talking about the organization my daughter Mary runs. And it's a great picture of Mary too. So Ed Larner.
I'm a big fan of the Housing Roundtable, and I know you guys have said you don't want to go be seen, from the trust point of view, working, moving too quickly on getting community input and getting people to agree on a total consensus on how the CMI Concord property should be used. But I'm wondering if the roundtable, I know we've been meeting quarterly. Is that going to happen? Again, I know it's right before town meeting. But my idea is that maybe we're already sort of a consensus of the housing community, and I would hope that we would be a good model for what the town uses for coming up with the total development plan of CMI Concord.
Thanks, Ed. I'm glad you mentioned the next housing roundtable. We haven't really talked about it. It certainly would make sense for us to meet prior to town meeting, maybe, say a month before or something, so that we're all ready. We've all signed on to support the planning board articles and other things. And we are going for fresh money for the trust on how we're implementing the housing production plan. So maybe to think about, I don't know, Liz, perhaps late March, early April for housing roundtable.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thanks for the suggestion.
After the public hearings.
Yes, after the public hearings. The last one, I believe, is the 21st of March. Yeah, so sometime after that.
Yeah, so April.
Yeah, so yeah, it could be the end of, it could be the last week in March or early April, perhaps.
I mean, I feel like we should recommend, I get called, the bridge called me, and also other people, Mary Johnson, and I'm trying, to refer them to a meeting where they could be heard on these issues. So I was thinking the roundtable was a good spot for that. So.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks very much for that suggestion, Ed.
Of course.
Any other public comment? All right. So for our next meeting, we have been meeting on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and I'm wondering if we can pick the next meeting. Today is the 30th. Let's see. I wonder how the 20th of February would look for people. 2 weeks from now is that's the panel in Lowell that I'm going to be doing. So I'm wondering how February 20th would be for folks.
Works for me.
Linda, is that?
I have a conflict, but.
Is there a better date that you? I think next week would be too soon. We could do the 27th. What about the 27th, Tuesday, the 27th of February?
I have a conflict.
That looks.
Gary has a conflict then. Well, maybe we better stick with, how do we feel about the 20th? Carrie, can you attend that? Because I'm feeling getting briefed on MCI Concord would probably be helpful for us.
I am available on the 20th.
Okay. And Mike and Rich can do the 20th.
I can do the 20th.
I can.
Okay. So Linda, I think we're gonna try to do the 20th as our
That's
Is our
fine, and
meeting-
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thanks very much. So that will be on Tuesday, February 20th at 5 PM. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Mike, second by Rich. All right, on the motion to adjourn, we'll do a roll call vote. Linda,
Aye, thank you.
Mike,
Aye, goodbye, everyone.
Rich,
aye,
Harry.
Aye.
Gary,
and
good
Keith.
luck with all of this. You're busy enough as it is without having to.
Yes, your calendar was completely full even before for MCI Concord. So thanks, more power to you, and we're happy to help however we can.
Thank
So
you.
we are adjourned at 6:18 PM. Thank you all very much. Thanks for being with us.